Okay, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to be able to talk to you. And we're going to be ending this year this month. So we will be having our webinars at the end of November. Then I'm taking December off. And this month is going to be a month of gratitude. And that's how I want to end the year. Just grateful for everything that we have. And we're going to be specifically talking about some things. And, you know, as always, we may go off on some tangents, but that's always awesome. And if ever you guys have other insights or thoughts that come to you throughout our webinars, please feel free to share. So tonight I wanted to kind of hit on, it was yesterday, so for the last few months I've been going to the temple weekly. And yesterday it just kind of hit me how grateful I am to be able to go to the temple. And every time I go, I feel an inspiration of some kind to make a change in my life. And sometimes those changes and those promptings are like, well, wait a minute, how's that going to happen? Because I can't see that happening because I don't have the means to make that happen, or you know what I mean? But it's like stepping off forward in faith into the unknown where we, you know, can't see, can't control, whatever, and making it happen. And then it works out. I'm going to share with you an experience I had a couple of weeks ago that I never thought was going to happen. But anyway, so I work from home. I work for myself, and I like that. But let's just say that my pay is up and down, okay? And I mean, I have the means to pay my bills, which is fine. I love that. But I've been driving around a minivan, an old minivan. It was a 2003 Toyota Sienna, I think, minivan. It had taught a few teenage boys how to drive, and let's just say it was a little bit banged up. It had over 200,000 miles on it. That car had seen its better days. Only some of the doors worked. It had a check engine light that would not turn off no matter what I had done to the car. And I just thought, I'm going to be in this car until it just dies on me on the side of the road or something. But I was sitting in the temple, not this last week, but the week before, and the thought came to me that it was time for me to trade in my van and that I needed to get a new car. But I'm like, but that would mean I need a car loan. And I haven't had a car loan in years. I would say 15 years easily I've not had a car loan. I've always paid cash for my cars, and I didn't have the means to do that. And I was like, okay, but that means I need to get a car loan. And my credit, you know, is okay, but, you know, anyway, I won't go into great details here, but so I had put off trying to get a car. I just figured that was somewhere going to be in the distant future, you know, me getting a car. But that thought came to me in the temple that I needed to trade in my van and go get a car. I have a friend that just happens to work at a car dealership, and I trust this friend. My older 3 kids had bought cars from him, and they love them, and it's been a great experience. And so I sent him a text that night after the temple, and I said, are you still in the car business? Because apparently I need to buy a car. And, you know, let him know a few of the details and whatever. And so I heard from him the next day. He said, I was in bed when you sent that text. I said, I know, but it was after the temple, and I felt that I needed to send that to you then. So so he said, well, let's make an appointment for tomorrow, which was Friday. And we did. And he came in and he said, Paula, I've got the car for you. This one car, we got one shot to make this happen. And, you know, I brought in all my bank statements, whatever, so I could show my income and whatever. And so he said, here's going to be our deal. He said, I don't know if it's going to happen, but we're going to try to make it happen. I'm like, okay, well, let's do that. So he comes back in less than 5 minutes, probably even less than 2. And he said, the bank said yes. And I'm like, seriously? That fast? And he said, yeah, well, while we were driving, he was already working on the deal. Some guy that was working there while we were doing the test drive on the car. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. And I almost started crying. I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to be able to have a car. And not just a car, but a brand new car. It was a 2019. I have never in my life bought a new car. And it, I was just, and within less than 2 hours, I was out of there. Whoever has ever bought a car in less than 2 hours at a car dealership? I haven't, so I've taken the day and sometimes into the next day. But anyway, so that was something that I felt. There have been times when I've gone to the temple. Yesterday, I felt the prompting to make it to because something had been on my mind about I have my son with Asperger's is needing a place to live, and it came to me yesterday how to make that happen. And so that's going to be my project for the week, is making that happen. So anyway, so it's been really interesting to me how just different things can come to me in the temple while I'm there. Some of the blessings, I'm always putting my kids' names in the temple, and I'm always, getting up and participating in everything that I can. But in the last couple of months, I think more than ever, I have felt the promptings and the inspirations that have come to me, whether it be through the single adult program, an idea on a topic for a webinar, something to do with my business, or whatever. And it's humbling to me, because I think the more that we go, the more that we are, and sometimes it's a sacrifice. I have never in my life gone to the temple weekly until the last 3 months. And quite honestly, it's through the influence of the guy I'm dating. I probably would have still stuck to my once a month time if I didn't have him, but that was his goal. And so now we do that together. And I'm grateful for that, because it has been a huge influence in my life, and it's brought so many blessings into my life. So I was sitting in the temple yesterday, and I had the thought of, I knew this month was going to be about gratitude, but I needed to express my gratitude for the temple. And now there's so much more about the temple than just receiving our own inspirations, right? I mean, there's so much more we can talk about the temple. And so I let my regulars that are with me, they know about this, and we're going to hear their thoughts in a minute. And then also we're also going to talk a little bit about just the gospel in general, because I can tell you now, for the stuff I've been through, there's no way I would have been where I'm at now without the gospel. There's no way I could have. And it's something I'm going to deal with my whole life, because what I've been through is that traumatic. It's not like it's just going to go away because I was just divorced. It's part of my story. But it has been something to me how having the gospel in my life and having the desire to be more of like the Lord wants me to be, and I hope that I'm coming close, then and how that has blessed my life. There's just no way. And I know that some people feel like because they're single, they can't go to church, or because they're single, they feel like they don't fit in or whatever. I have felt the opposite. I felt like I need to be there because it's the only thing going to get me through. The only thing that's going to bring in any kind of sense into the mess that I've been through. And one of the biggest blessings of the mess that I've been through is that I'm able to share a message. So we call that a message from the mess. And we all have that. I believe that we do anyway. I believe that we've all been through some sort of mess, and we all have a message from that mess that we can share with others. And we can do that through the gospel and through interacting with each other and blessing somebody with your presence and with your story and with your testimony, how that can inspire so many people and help people be able to get through times when they feel like they can't take another step or like there is no hope, because there always is. So with that, so I can choke back these tears. I'm going to turn it over now to you guys. I want you guys to share with me, if you will, how you feel about the blessings of the temple or the blessings of the gospel or whatever comes to mind. Anybody have any thoughts you want to share? You feel like you're in fast and testimony meeting in that awkward stage where everybody's quiet and you're like, wait a minute, I don't know if I'm going to get up. Because I can keep talking. But I'd like to hear from you guys if we could. One of you want to share? Now, those of you, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think for me, I'm grateful for the temple, for all of it, and for the singles program. I think that it wasn't until I really participated hard in the singles program that I realized where I fit in the church. Like, because I was able to make friends through the program, I felt empowered to go back to my ward, and I had a family that was supporting me. And it's not that my real family or my born into family wasn't, but it was other people that understood what I was going through because they were going through it as well, that were kind of there with their hand on my back saying, we got you. Don't worry about this. We got you. And then as we continue to get to know each other a little bit more, you're able to have more of those connections that make you feel more just comfortable with where you are. And then you are able to grow where you're planted, so to speak, in the gospel. And then that transfers over to how your temple attendance and how you feel when you're at the temple. You no longer feel lonely. And while you are alone, not with a companion, you do have people that are there for you and that, that love you and, are there in your times of sorrow, but are also there to cheer you on when you're happy. And so I think that we can't discount the family that we make up as a singles group as a strength in our life, and that it will empower us to be happy when we go to church and will push us for that, and that going to the temple more and, gaining more from going to the temple and that kind of thing. Because had you not been involved in the singles program, you wouldn't have met your sweet man, and you wouldn't have had the opportunity to go on a weekly basis. And we can't discount any of the meetings that we've had, because my life has been touched by every single person that I've met at these singles events. I've learned something from them, good or bad.
Thank you for sharing that. I have felt the same way. I mean, I can't even imagine my life as a single person in the church without the single adult program. I can't. I mean, I've been in too many wards where I felt like, they were nice to me at church. They were good to me. They weren't like outcasting me or whatever. But I didn't really hear from them during the week. Didn't really socialize with them. Didn't feel like I had there's been a couple of them I felt like we're good friends. But then when I change wards or whatever, we're still not, we're not interacting or whatever. So yeah, it's just it's something. I'm very grateful for the Inspired program, and you guys know how I feel about single adult program. It's definitely something I feel like was inspired and so needed for so many people. And I know different people have different ideas of how they feel like it should be ran. Keep going, keep bringing in those ideas, because it probably helps us that are running it going, oh yeah, we didn't think about that. That's a great idea. Let's do that. You know? But yeah, it has been a blessing, and it's been a huge thing to be able to do that. So yeah, and definitely a blessing in my life. Oh my goodness, the friends I've had, hundreds of friends. It's awesome. All right, anybody else want to share your thoughts? Okay, I'm going to tell you another story, if it sparks anything. So my youngest son is on a mission in Brazil, and that boy knows the gospel like nobody I know. And he's only, well, he'll be 20 the day after Christmas. But when he was 15, I would go to him with scriptures that I didn't understand, and I would say, can you explain this to me? And he could, in full detail, give background of it, more details, and finally I just had to say, okay, I'm in overload now. I think I know more about this than what I thought I was going to get out of it. Like, he has a love for the scriptures, and he has a love for the gospel. Like, there's just no way I can see him ever feeling like, you know, he wants to be without the gospel. So he has a passion for it that most teenagers don't have. I know I've got 4 other kids, and none of them, you know, came close to his testimony of the scripture or his knowledge of it. But one thing that he gained and that he grew to love was family history. And he and I would spend time Sunday afternoons and sometimes during the week doing family history. He has accumulated hundreds of names that need work. And so he took some with him to Brazil, hoping that the Fortaleza temple would be open and he'd get to go every week or whatever. He gets to go once a year. And it's killing him. The only exception to that is if they were to baptize somebody, a couple, and they were going to be sealed while he's out there on his mission, they would get special permission to go to their sealing. Before he left, he got to work as an ordnance worker in the temple. It was amazing to me. And he would go every week, every Saturday. He would be there all day on Saturday. This 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old, 18-year-old, yeah, 18-year-old kid would give up every Saturday to spend it at the temple. And he looked forward to it. He thought it was like the best thing ever. Wished he could spend every day at the temple. Like, you do have to work, you know. Mm-hmm. So, but he got to do that, and the temple workers got to know him and loved him, and would, you know, come up to me when they found out I was his mom. Wait, you're his mom? Yeah. Oh wow, you got a great mom. You got a great son. I'm like, I know. You know, it was just so awesome. But it was amazing to me the testimony of the temple that he gained and that I gained through him working at the temple. He couldn't share, you know, all the experiences that he had, but he was able to share with me the spirit that he felt, or the testimony that he was gaining. And he's like, Mom, people need to be in the temple. I wish people could understand the importance and the significance of being in the temple and of going more often. Now, he and I did go a few times before he left together, and that was a wonderful experience, one I'm going to treasure forever, because as soon as he comes home, he's back out at BYU and doing his stuff there. But he's also planning to go to the temple every week. And while even before his mission, he was at BYU for summer semester, and he would get his roommates and other people in the ward together, and they would go to the temple and do baptisms. And he got a lot of work done that way. It's truly amazing to me how the Lord works with us and blesses us when we do his work. When we do his work. when we're on His errand, when our hearts are turned to Him. Something that my son has told me recently, well, within the last month or so, I guess, through one of our weekly calls, is he said, Mom, I use you as an example a lot. Whenever people say that they're too tired to go to church, or it's too hard because of whatever, he goes, no, you don't understand. My mom had 5 kids, and she was the only parent, and she made sure we went to church every Sunday, and I know she was tired, and I know that it was not easy, that she made sure we did. And then when people would talk about, well, I don't know if I can pay tithing, you go, no, you don't understand. My mom had all these bills, and she only made this much money, and it never worked out on paper. And to this day, it never works out on paper, people. But it never worked out on paper, but yet we always had what we needed, and the bills were always paid. Pay your tithing first. And, it's been amazing to me how just different aspects of the gospel have blessed my life. There have been so many times when I did feel like I was stepping off into a dark hole in faith, going, all right, Lord, tell me where to land and where to put my foot, because I don't know the next step, and He guides me. And I did have to let go of the desire to always know the end from the beginning. I did have to let go of the need to know the whole plan first, because we're not always going to know that. We do have to have faith, and faith is not knowing. It's not knowing, but it's having that hope that He's going to guide us, and that faith that He's going to guide us. It's just believing in Him. It's not easy, and it's not perfect, and it never works out like I think it will. It always ends up being something different than what I had imagined or envisioned or whatever, but it's usually better. The Lord's plan is always better than my plan, and I'm grateful for that. And I know that if we continue to strive to do His will, no matter where we're at, no matter if you can go to the temple now or not, it doesn't matter. There's still blessings from the temple that you can receive in doing family history work, in visiting the temple grounds and feeling of the Spirit there, and learning about the temple, taking temple prep classes, or hearing others' experiences and gaining a testimony of it. And living the gospel, none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. But I'm very grateful for the atonement. I'll be talking about that more later on. But the atonement is real. That repentance and forgiveness and the atonement, that's awesome. So grateful for that. And I'm grateful that the Lord knew that 1/3 of the adult population in the church would be single, and that we needed an inspired program to help bring us together, to support each other. Not necessarily as a support group, but as friends. I believe, now I'm a big believer in therapy, as you guys all know. So if you need therapy, go to therapy. But there are some times when you just need a good friend. And I'm grateful I have that. Jennifer and I connect every week. And I so look forward to that conversation. Although I know I messed up this week, didn't I? Sorry, I'll make it up. But to have that friendship and to have that connection with somebody that you can talk to, especially as women, we need that. Men, I believe, need it too. Men tend to keep things more bottled up because, you got that mask thing going on that you feel like, oh no, if we feel something that might be a sign of weakness. That's not so. I hope that not everybody believes that. because it's honestly a sign of strength to be able to express feeling and to be able to express emotion and be able to get it out versus holding it in, and being able to connect as friends. I have some of the best friends I will ever have in my life in the single adults. I'm very grateful for that. So, all right. Any other thoughts? You guys want to hear another story? I can keep going. Oh, hey. What is your name? Did you have something you wanted to share?
Trying to figure this out, so
That's okay. I can
really
hear you. Yep, I
Oh,
can.
okay. Cool. All right. I'm just enjoying listening to your stories, actually. So stories are stories are very good. Yeah, I have a testimony of the temple as well. So it's been we go as Relief Society like once a month, and so I enjoy the endowment sessions. I enjoy all the sessions, and so it's been a real blessing to me. So I've been a member of the church for probably about going on 10 years, and a little bit more or less active than more active, but in the last several years I have. And the temple it's a wonderful place. So I'm still learning and
Awesome.
and enjoying it. Yeah.
Great. And what is your name?
My name is I go by Gigi, but my real name is Lagithia.
Okay.
Yep. So Gigi. Yep.
Gigi.
Yep. So cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And Barbara, can we hear you, or do you want me to just read this? Barbara just said, strength is not something we're born with. It's something we find with the Lord's help. And that was through Emma Smith. And that I do believe. I know we all have our own strengths, if you will. We talked about that before. But to go through some of the refiner's fires that we've been through, that is a lot. That's something we have to experience. So the I got a text today because my Blue City president came to visit me last week to invite me to my new ward and all this jazz, and which was nice and was fun. And I got a text tonight that said, hey, she said that you would be open or available, or that she talked to you about possibly teaching Relief Society. Now, I have a hearing problem, and I don't remember that part of our conversation. But that could have been, and I could have heard something else. And I said, yeah, no problem. But anyway, so she's wanting me to teach Relief Society next week, and it's on the power to overcome adversity. And I was talking to my roommate earlier. I'm like, it always seems like I get that topic. I have talked about that topic so many times. So whenever I get that topic, I'm like, all right, Lord, I got to share. So here we go. So next week I'll be talking about overcoming adversity. And we all have that, right? Like when we go through the refiner's fire and being able to help each other. You know, when I first became single and I was just separated, I had a mutual friend come up and tell me that she was talking to another sister in the ward who was also going through a divorce. And she was talking to her and saying, oh, I'm so sorry this is happening to you. You know, her husband cheated on her and it was just a mess. And she's like, oh, no. What I'm going through is nothing. She's like, I'm just glad I'm not Paula Sherrill and going through what she's going through. And you know, I was so grateful that friend shared that with me, because all of a sudden it gave me a sense of purpose for the mess that I was going through. It was like, hey, I can make somebody else that feels better about their life. Hey, you know, I can make them, I can help them feel like, hey, it's not as bad as it could be, right? So I was grateful for that. There are so many things about being able to have each other that we can help each other to grow and to be who we're meant to be. And we cannot do that without the gospel. We just can't. We can try. We can think, oh, I'm going to do it on my own. I'll go this way. Or if it doesn't meet certain expectations, I'm just going to quit. I've had so many people say, well, I've been doing these single adult things for 2 years. I'm just done with it. And I'm like, oh, put in a little bit more time. Maybe it's just not the Lord's timing. Something that I have learned is that, the Lord's timing is different for all of us. For some people, it can happen sooner, and others it'll happen later. But you can't give up. Giving up means that the Lord's plan can't happen because you quit. So keep going, because you just never know. And it's not just you that has to be ready. It also has to be the other person. If you're wanting to get married, it also has to be the other person that has to be ready. And you got to be ready at the same time. So just be mindful of that. All right. Let's see if I can think of another story. So I have a son that, my middle son, who I adore. He is fun, energetic, passionate, full of life, but quite the opposite of my youngest son. Whereas my youngest son is the scriptorian, my middle son actually has a couple of learning disabilities, like a reading comprehension disorder and a processing disorder. So learning for him did not come easy. And being the middle child, he honestly cared more about his social life than he did about his education. He always felt like school kind of got in the way of his social life. He would show up to seminary. He graduated seminary, but I don't know if he really, he understood like the basic stories of the scriptures and that kind of thing. But I'm wondering if that was more because we had him on video through Living Scriptures. I don't know. But he was a people person. Everybody just loved him. He has helped out at some of the single adult events, and people just love him. He's a hard worker. He's just a great, great person. And he decided, we moved here. We moved back to Georgia from Utah. So I was in North Carolina when my divorce happened. I moved to Utah in Provo to finish my degree at BYU. They were like 2.5 years. We moved back to Georgia his junior year. I talked to him about it, made sure it was okay with him. But I should have just let him finish school there. But either way, I didn't. We were here in Georgia. And we were in a place where we didn't know anybody. And the schools were horrible. And he ended up dropping out of school his junior year and getting his GED, which he did no problem. Then his senior year came, or would have been a senior year, and he wanted to go back, but he couldn't because he had his GED. And then he realized he messed up his senior year. He's not going to get his senior year of, the prom and, senior year stuff, right? So he just he felt bummed. But he got a job and he started doing stuff, but he got into a depression. And he came out of it fairly easily, but it took a little bit of processing, a little bit of time for him to process a lot of the stuff and being okay with his choices. And he was kind of on, let's just say, a gray line with his testimony in the church. He's one of those that will do what he's supposed to do, but not so sure he believes in it, kind of thing. So like he was at church every Sunday. He would do what he needed to do and whatever. Then it came time for him to put in his mission papers, and he did. And it was right around the time when my son's going to be about 22, my Asperger's son, was also diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. And he came to me, I don't know, a week or two after that diagnosis. And he said, Mom, I don't know if I'm going to go on a mission. And I just said, look, I can't handle both you not going on a mission and him with schizophrenia. I just can't. So just go. He's like, okay, I'll go. I'm like, we cannot have this conversation. So thankfully he went. He was called to Idaho. He went the Twin Falls. Now I think they only had that mission for the 3 years, and then they dissolved that mission while he was there, and is now gone back to being the Boise mission, or they split it or something. I don't know. Anyway, his part was Boise. Anyway, but he served the Twin Falls mission for the duration of the 3 years. Oh no, 2 years of it, but I mean it was there for 3 years. And while he was out there, he had this accent that sounded like an Australian accent. And I'm like, where's the accent coming from? And he would talk to us, and I'm like, Jeremy, this is not what you sound like. He goes, I know, Mom, I've tried to stop doing this, and it won't, and I just can't. Like, I don't know how to make it stop. And I'm like, well, have you been around somebody that, he's like, yeah, there was this missionary who was in our district in the MTC, was from Australia. And it's like, after being around him, it's like I just talk like him, and I can't not talk like him. I'm like, okay, that was interesting. And as he was on his mission, it got thicker. But he wasn't around anybody else. He actually had bishops and stake presidents that'd be like, hey, where are you from? And he's like, I'm from Georgia. He's like, no, people from Georgia don't talk like that. You know? And there would be some areas where they didn't like him because they felt like he was just faking it. But he would talk to me and he'd say, Mom, I don't know how to stop this. In his little, the accent sounded cool. But I also knew there was some emotional connection. And in my diagnosis, because we never had him evaluated or whatever, I think it was the fact that he was insecure about his testimony, or insecure about who he was, or what he was doing on a mission, or not being good enough. I don't know, something. So he just kind of took on that accent that still gave him something. He came home with that accent, and he gave his report, and they're all, what's up with this, right? Because they knew him before he left. And they said, I don't know, it's just the way it is, kind of thing. And then the more time he spent at home, we noticed it was only when he prayed or read scriptures. The other times he could talk fine. So then we learned it was more, I think, his insecurity with the gospel. And maybe his lack of knowledge of it, or wanting to feel like he was more than what he was, or I don't know, something, right? Something like that. I'm totally guessing. It's just what it seemed. A couple months after he got home from his mission, he started talking to a woman that was on his mission. That he had met on his mission. She lived there in Idaho. Then he came to me and he goes, I think I'm going to date her. She might be the one. And I'm like, wait a minute. You've only been home a couple of months. You're going to BYU, Idaho. Let's do that. Let's date other people. Let's, just figure things out. And so he did not take my advice, although he did go to BYU, Idaho, but apparently he just still dated her. Which was fine. They are now married. 2 years after he got home from his mission, they got married, and now they're expecting their first baby this December. His accent is completely gone. But it took him more than a year, because he came home from his mission and he was like, Mom, I don't know if I believe that the church is true, and I don't know if I'm believing all this stuff, so I'm just trying to figure all this out. He still went to church, but at least he was more upfront about it all. And So I just gave him space to figure it out. I just told him, just go to church, just try to figure it out. And, I'm here if you need me. So he did. And thankfully, through her influence, it wasn't mine, it was through her influence, that he was able to figure things out, that he was able to talk through some things, and she was able to help him to see things, and got him back to the temple. Not that he couldn't go to the temple, but got him back and going to the temple. And now they go every week. They're primary teachers together, and his testimony is stronger. It's his testimony. So rather than comparing, kid versus kid or whatever, it is his testimony. And we're all at different levels of our testimony, right? We all have different experiences within our testimony or within the gospel that we feel like helps us in getting through our hard times. It helps us in whatever, right? And I share this with you because I don't want you to think that all my kids are like my youngest, because they're not. So far from it. I've got a daughter who's not even going to church, like completely left the church. And I've got my oldest son and his family are going to church every week, very faithfully. But his 12-year-old stepson, I told him, I had him do some work for me, and I gave him some money, and I'm like, no, don't forget to pay tithing on that. And he's like, what's tithing? And I'm like, whoa, how do you not know what tithing is? You know what I mean? I'm like, okay. So I gave him, a little lesson. I went home and like, dude, he doesn't know what tithing is. You should be teaching this boy. You know what I mean? So they just had a baby within the last month and whatever. But still, it's just one of those things where no family is perfect and no family has it all together. As much as we'd like to be that way, we're just not. If you just accept ourselves where we're at, and do what we're going to do and be who we're going to be, and stop comparing. Comparison is what is it? What is that phrase? I'll have to look it up. Just don't compare. I'll have to look. I gotta find that phrase. Comparison is something I don't remember. Anyway, it's just not good. We're all at different levels of testimony. We're all at different phases in our life. We're all at different opportunities to serve in our callings or whatever. We've all had different life experiences, and we've all made different choices in our life. But the Lord He knows us. He loves us. He wants us there. I share with you these stories because there are roads to the Lord that are vast and varied. There are different journeys that we're all going to take. And some may be perceived as my youngest son as being straight and narrow. Do you know that he's like the most insecure of all my children? He will doubt himself. He second guesses himself. It's horrible, and it's painful for me to watch it. He's like, Mom, do you think I'll be good enough? Do you think this is right? Maybe I shouldn't do this. But he's the one that knows the scriptures and has that strong testimony of the gospel, and at 4.0 GPA in school, even at BYU. I mean, he's brilliant. But he'll doubt himself and second guess all the time. None of us are perfect. We all have different things that we're battling, whether it be emotionally or physically, spiritually, whatever. We're all at different places. We've all got different stories, but we can all come together to be friends and to celebrate each other and to support each other and to reach out to each other. So just know that you are loved and no one is forgotten. The Lord knows you. The Lord loves you. And there's a place for you in the gospel, in the church, in the temple, in the single adult program. You guys are awesome. And I'm so grateful for you. And I'm grateful for you in my life. The friendships that I treasure, just the opportunities that we've been given. All right, I'm going to stop with my stories. Anybody else have anything else you want to share tonight? All righty. Well, with that, we're going to sign off. And I look forward to talking to you next week. More gratitude. And we will have a great conversation. Talk to you then. Good night. Thanks for sharing your Sunday evening with me.